Difficulty grading. Both rope climbing and bouldering have their own grading systems. They are also translated into different systems depending on where you are in the world. For this guide, we'll go over the Yosemite Decimal System for rope climbing and the V-Scale for bouldering, which are both primarily used in the United States and Canada. We'll also go over the French scale for top rope and the font scale, which is also French, for boulders to cover most other parts of the world. Some countries and areas use their own grading scales, so if neither of these systems apply to you, just look up the system for your area. The Yosemite Decimal System. The Yosemite Decimal System starts at 1 for walking on a flat trail, 2 for hiking a steep or kinda tough trail, 3 for a steep hillside that requires your hands a bit, 4 for an even steeper climb that usually requires a rope to avoid long falls, and 5, which is for technical roped climbing with a belayer or auto belay. This is what you're going to find in a rock climbing gym. Now that you understand where we get the 5, the decimal number after it rates the difficulty. 5.0 is pretty much climbing a ladder and continues up in grade and difficulty by number to 5.10, where when we're at 5.10, the letters A, B, C, and D start to come into play. So a 510A is more difficult than just a 510. A 510B is harder than a 510A, and so forth. After 510D comes 511, then 511A. The hardest graded climb to date of this video is a 515D. Bouldering V-Scale. The Bouldering V-Scale is much easier. It goes from V0 to V17 and simply goes up in number. V0 to V1 to V2 to V3 and so on. You may also see a plus or a minus next to the grades to depict if it's more on the easier side or the harder side of that grade. So you might see a V3 minus to depict that it's a V3, but it's a soft V3. Or you might see a V3 plus saying it's a V3, but pretty hard for a V3. The French and font scale. The French scale for roped climbing and font scale for bouldering are both made up the same way. They start at 1 and continue to increase in number. After 3, the letters A, B, and C are added to differentiate difficulties. They also can add a plus or a minus at the end as well. For example, a 4B minus is harder than a 4A plus. A 5C is harder than a 5B plus. Currently, the hardest climb graded is a 9C. All current difficulty grade systems are open-ended and can continue to go up as people achieve harder and harder climbs and boulder problems. Here is a rough graph I got from Wikipedia giving a general comparison of grades. They don't translate perfectly, but this is deemed a close estimate. The most important thing to know about grades is to not let them dictate you or your climbing. Grades are decided based on different elements of a climb. Someone could have trouble with the style of one of the V1s, but could find the style of one of the V2s or even V3s to be in their skill range. Use grades as a general guide, but always challenge the higher numbers. You never know until you try.